That's step two. And that's where brands like those represented here on stage can be of most help, right? We've got a lot of experience, we've got a network. Andy is calling us constantly to show us opportunities to partner with individuals on his platform and in his membership community. And so being able to use that inertia that already exists in the industry and have focused individuals who are interested in your particular success is huge. And so I know at Wyndham, like at Choice, like at Marion Hilton, the fact that these programs exist is the reflection that our executive team realizes that what we already do for our franchisees is a huge benefit for them, but for communities like Black entrepreneurs and for women entrepreneurs, we're willing to do one step further, right? Keep me employed effectively, to do it specifically for this community to make sure that you're connected to the right folks. So I think that's, that I exist and that we exist and that these programs exist, I think is evidence that our industry is committed to the programs and to the initiatives.
And we go a step further. Nothing keeps me and gives me heartache than picking up a piece of media material and seeing some person run around the country, but they're going to teach people how to get in the hotel business when they've never been in the hotel business. They have not a clue what they're doing. This is a risk business, and you're risking not only you being a failure, but to me that's a problem. And so we do a number of workshops at all the brands, and at Hilton, Marriott, we take people that are serious, that want to make sure they can do and develop a generational wealth platform. And Sam and John, closer to you too, we want people that have a commitment, have some money. My chairman used to say, this is not a government cheese program. You do need money to get into the business, but we're prepared to help with those resources. Sam, talk about, well, not with John first, because John, and I think you've got a Hilton workshop coming up. I don't want to see 100 people there because they want to kick tires. We wanted, and John Lancaster talked about education, but we wanted people that are serious, and we can help them to go to the next step. We can help you to say how to do and raise some money. John, talk a little bit about the education program we do at the brand, and Sam and I do the same thing with the new program at Marriott.
We actually get into kind of what I call development 101. What are the pitfalls about investing in a hotel? All the brands, everybody out there, Choice, Wyndham, Marriott, Hilton, and other brands, our programs are flexible to meet the needs of what you're going to specifically need. And we all try to go one step further. That's this piece of the equation, okay? I want to be dead honest about that. We can offer on key money incentives.
So, Michael, let's talk what key money is too.
Okay, so key money is money that the brands will give you the day, well, within 30 days of you opening your hotel, you're going to get a check for X amount of dollars that we negotiated when we did the deal. Keep in mind, that's, again, when you're looking at spending 10, 15, $20 million, it's not going to be a check for 10, 15, or $20 million. It's going to be a smaller piece, but that shows the commitment of the brands to your project. I will tell you, you can't really use key money in your capital stack, right? Because it's being paid after a hotel opens. So how do you get some incentives on the front end? You're going to negotiate better royalty fee structures with each and every one of us. You're going to ask for some potential credit enhancement, which you might not, you can't use it in your capital stack, but the banks are going to be more inclined to lend to you because of the credit enhancement piece. But here's where I was trying to get to. Before we even get to that stage, you as an individual have to partner with the right people to start the education process about investing in hotels so that you can understand the risk-reward ratio between the two. And we do workshops for that. All of my counterparts do workshops. But at the end of the day, you gotta hire professionals to help you through those first kind of 8 steps. And my advice would be never to go out and try to do a hotel on your own, by yourself, for the first time. You want partners. You want experienced partners. Maybe you invest 5 or 10% in that deal. Then you can go to the next one after that, and the next one after that, and you end up like this guy over here, who's got how many hotels now? 7, 8, 10, 20?
I think I've done 11.
11. But my point is, the first one, he did with partners. Second one, he did with partners, if I'm remembering correctly. So that's how you learn. You gotta get deep in the weeds. You gotta dive into the deep end of the pool, pick your cliche, but if you don't do that, your odds of success diminish greatly. So to me, it's about partnerships that we, all of us up here, can help set you up with for your investment in your first hotel project. If you don't do that right, again, we're all going to lose.
I agree, Evan.
Yeah, I just want to elaborate on what John said. So basically, I sat where you're sitting at, and I had no knowledge of hotels. I had some experience with flipping houses in residential real estate. So the first deal, like they mentioned, I partnered with someone who, him and his family had 12 hotels, and they had the operations background. A bank would not have loaned me money because I didn't have that background. I had a real estate background. So I was thinking where I brought on this partner, he brought the operations experience, and then one thing that I did not like was I was not astute in operations, but my money was at risk. So I took that opportunity on that smaller project to learn and educate myself through my partner, through a third-party manager that we hired, and I really studied and studied and studied to a point where I became comfortable that now I can oversee a third-party operator from an asset management perspective. Because once again, everybody here gets paid off the top line. How many get paid off the bottom line? Right? It's a big difference. So I just wanted to make sure that education was in place, and I just wanted everybody to know the process.
Sam, holding hands.
Yes.
Holding hands, being successful together. You want to give that anything to that?
Yeah, I think Galen and John and Evan really hit on it. It is a big cliche to say, but there's that saying of, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, right? And so when you look at any of the brands up here, that is what we are there to do, is to take you to the next level of success. It is really about our experience and that what we can share with you. I mean, Marriott is 9,000 hotels. I think Hilton just hit 8,000 hotels. We have been doing this for 99 years. Learn from our mistakes and let us introduce you to those right partners. Let us introduce you to capital designers, general contractors, operating partners. We have all of those relationships, and if we can connect you with the right people, then you can be successful. And I think there's a lot of lessons you can learn from our experience, and we can grow with you. So maybe your first hotel isn't a ground-up construction project. Maybe it's investing with another partner in an existing asset, like Evan said, where you can learn from their operating experience, and then 2-3 years down the road, you understand the business, you're ready to build your next hotel. And that's where I think Marriott has a program that's designed to lower barriers to entry for historically underrepresented hotel ownership groups like the Black community, where we can start to remove some of those barriers up front that have made it difficult to get into the industry.
Good. So I want to take and I want to release Jay and Galen because of release a check for the next $10 million hotel. And I want to release Jay and Galen. I've got to step down. Let's you guys stay with.
Thank you everyone for your time.
All of you that are registered, you will get a copy of the address of everybody. I'm going to ask Warren Thompson to join us and Kendra Plummer. I figure I want to put some beauty on the panel and I want John. I mean, John Postage.
We love you.
Evan said something very critical of what he did before. You can go from 0 to 100 miles an hour if you really have the commitment. And I kid Evans a lot of times, but integrity, commitment, reliability is what business is all about. And if the brands see that, and your investors see that, then they feel a lot more comfortable. And so Warren is a serial investor. If there's a good deal to be done, he has a bunch of partners. He's the largest minority food service operator in the United States, bar none. Restaurants, HBCU schools, commitment to HBCU schools. And I'm happy to introduce himself in Kendra. I remember when Kendra came to last year as a student. Went to work in the industry. And again, you talk about finding the right people to partner with, but not only understand, but integrity, experience, the ability to call John or Sam, both Johns, and say, I need some help. Warren, introduce yourself. No, actually, Beauty first. Kendra, that's not sexy, is it? Because it's beautiful? Good. Kendra, please introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kendra Plummer. I am the founder of Elise Capital, which is a hotel investment firm. So the mission of the firm is to be making hotels more accessible to everyone. And that's how all of my deals are structured. So to date, I currently own 3 hotels, 2 with the Hilton franchise, and 1 with IHG.
And by the way, Kendra, Evans are all looking for investors that want to put money in deals. That's how we grow together. Warren?
All right. Good morning. I'm Warren Thompson, and in spite of what Andy says, I am a legitimate business person. But yeah, so I'm a founder and owner of Thompson Hospitality. We provide food service to large corporations, hospitals, K-12 school districts, airport lounges, Delta Club, United Club, when you go in there. We also own we do food service for about 20 HBCUs. We also do some facilities management. The president of that group is with me, Brian Banks. So if anyone needs anything clean, call Brian. We also operate about 70 restaurants now. 62 of them are in the DMV. So if you're out and about this weekend and you want to go to a Matchbox or Milk and Honey or Maker's Union or In-Quarter, we'd appreciate the business. We do operate now some hotel food and beverage. So the food and beverage here is an example. Ridley down in Charlottesville, which is part of an autograph property, and the Aloft out in Columbus, Ohio. We've got a high-end steakhouse in that restaurant. So please be here.
And again, well, I should talk a little bit about, you're also big investors in a number of hotels. Right. Talk a little bit about why you invest in those hotels. Is it because they have a great brand on it? But what's the sort of thought process you go to get to the point that you want to write a check?
Okay. You know, as an individual, I look at whatever I do as a portfolio of business. So I decided to start getting into the hotel business as a real estate play. And as others have said, I didn't know a lot about operating hotels or anything, so I partnered, or we invested through Norm Jenkins and Capstone. So this property is an example. There are about 7 or 8 African Americans that invested through Norm into this property. I wanted to do the food and beverage here, so as part of that, the operating company is doing the food and beverage. But we invested in about 22 hotels through that mechanism. Then we built a hotel behind our headquarters in Reston with Homewood Suite. It's a Homewood Suite, it's part of the Hilton group. And we did that strategically because we wanted to have a place to do testing of products, and we built the kitchen out larger than required. And it's also the place where people can stay when they come in for training and so forth. So that was a strategic play as well as a part of a real estate opportunity. My last investment in hotels has actually been through a publicly traded company, Park Hotels, which you know is owned or operated by Tom Baltimore. Tom was a summer intern with me at Marriott back in the day. So I've known Tom since then. I know he's a sharp guy. I was at a meeting where he was in attendance about 2 years ago now. And Tom was just having a good time in good spirit. I said, "Jeez, he's got an earnings call next week. If he's that happy, I better go invest in it." It wasn't insider trading, it's just kind of reading the tea leaves. But it's been a good investment for the last 18, 24 months.
Kendra, talk a little bit about how you go and find investors and what do you look for from that perspective.
So with Elise Capital, again, the goal was making hotel investments more accessible and more inclusive. My background was working for very large investment groups and realizing that hotels are a great wealth-generating asset and vehicle, but getting into them as an investor is often very exclusive and not publicly listed if you're not a publicly traded group. So Elise Capital is structured to remove a lot of the barriers that we face, considering the wealth gaps in the U.S. and the gender gaps as well, and both racial wealth gaps and gender wealth gaps. So how the deals are structured is a hotel, first of all, is going to be a large amount of debt on it first. So it can be anywhere from maybe 50% all the way up to 80% if it's a smaller deal with SBA. And then that remaining piece, the smaller piece, is going to typically be a collection of investors. That investment amount for every sponsor varies, so it goes deal by deal. But where I'm finding investors is from speaking to people like you. It's making a relationship and working with people that have the same vision, ethics, and integrity, as well as the funds to get it done.
So you talk about an intern running the second largest hotel company in the United States. That's the guy that used to work for Warren Comfort. And when we started NABHOOD and we went to Larkin Palace in Los Angeles, there was not enough African Americans in the room to get a table of 10. You think about it, I think when we started, we had about 18 people in the room as an organization. So it's really critical for us to figure out how we can work together. If Tochi calls me, who's the assistant general manager actor, if he calls me and says, I have a guy that has some money that he wants to invest in hotels, I said, let me put you with somebody that I think is going to represent your interest and make sure your heart and cast doesn't fall astray. John, for you and Sam, do you like folks that can, is that me? What am I going on? I don't know, I'm going to in the wrong place, but. Oh, right here? Okay. Kovic, Sam, are these the type of individuals that you want to find to help you grow the brand that goes into Marriott? And I'm sure John will echo that, John, on Lancaster.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, you look at what Kendra's done, you look at what Evans has done, you look at what Warren's done, of course, but what I want to be able to do is attract more capital for Kendra and others to be able to go out and purchase more assets that are going to be accretive to her fund and to be able to pay the distributions to the investors and not have to do cash calls on those, right? And so the model that she has developed and put in place has worked very well. She needs to make that tent a little bit bigger, which is what she's trying to do by attracting more investors into the fund. I would tell you 3 things that are critical to her success and everybody else's success in this room. It's about the communication. We met a couple months ago. One hotel not doing as well as another. Is it a management issue? What can the brands do to help? We kind of dove into that relationship to try to solve what could potentially be an issue. Hopefully, we're making the right tracks and moving in the right path there. Because it's all about the communication. It's all about where you're going to invest, too. I mean, look, let's be realistic about the roadmap here. The Northeast and parts of the Midwest are not doing as well as the Mid-Atlantic and the Southeast or the Southwest. So you want to pick your spots where you're going to invest. In migration states, lower tax states, more conducive to being able to build, better potential opportunities for land acquisition. You know, you get up into the Northeast, it's pretty tight to find a site to develop a hotel. You come in here to Washington, D.C., good luck finding a site that you can build a hotel. You know, you're height restricted here. Are you the highest and best use? Not a hotel use today from a raw land standpoint, but maybe there's an office building you could look at for an adaptive reuse because things are constrained here and the city is looking for people to be able to do that. So communication, get with the partners where you can invest and learn the business. They get to expand their portfolio and you get to do the same through that partnership. If we, again, I keep coming back to this, right place, right time, right partner. You do those three things, you'll be fine. Real estate has always been, if not the best, the second best creator of wealth in this country, whether it's hotels, residential, whatever. It's about the real estate.
I think to John's initial point, we would love to do business with Kendra and love to do business with Warren. And the challenge is not finding Kendras who are interested in doing business with. The challenge is lowering the barriers to entry so that more people like Kendra who are interested can get into this industry, right? So that's our focus, is how can we use our experience and our resources to make it easier for people like Kendra to get into the business and to get into hotel ownership. And maybe that starts with you investing with her in Elise Capital. That investment is successful, you start to learn the business, and then you get out and do a hotel on your own and start to build your own portfolio of hotels or continue to grow with Kendra. So I think, yes, it's not about finding people who are interested, it's how do we lower barriers to entry for those people, and so that's the focus of Marion.
Right, and I think it's something where you want to make sure you're reaching out and image, location, and demand. It's community, making sure, I want to develop a hotel in my community so I can create more jobs in there. No, not everybody lives in downtown DC or the Northeast, but there may be some secondary or tertiary market where a hotel still makes sense. And people coming into the business and not just investing, maybe they were franchisees before, owned restaurants prior to, getting into the hotel business. So it was, somewhere in Arizona. So Larry, Sure. Larry, yes. So he started off in the restaurant business as well.
Where's Larry? Oh, he has a lot of gray hair, I didn't recognize him.
He's not here.
Thanks, John.
My pleasure. So, he started off in the restaurant business as well prior to him getting his comfort in Glendale, Arizona. And it's a family-oriented business too, so he's making sure his son has an opportunity to run that hotel. So yes, it's getting in and investing and doing that, but what we want to make sure is we have 25 Kendras, 50 Evans. That's our focus to make sure, and it's learning. And if it's meaning investing, with Evans and with Kendra, that's fantastic. And some people have that opportunity again to make sure that they learn that and they have the opportunity to get their own, bring them more partners.
Just want to add one point. John's bringing up great points here. The first deal that I ever did working for Hilton was a Hampton Inn in Maryland with an Asian American owner. And this owner did not have a lot of money, but he had the wherewithal to put a partnership together. He had 72 partners in the deal. Anything from $2,000 to $50,000 as part of the partnership. This individual had 2% of the deal, but he was a managing member of the deal. And then as he got this hotel off the ground, started paying out his partners, acquired a little bit more of the asset, refinanced it, went out and did another one, This particular owner today, with his partners, I believe has 87 open hotels. So this is 25 years ago, okay? You could do the same today.
And the great point, John, you're right, is getting started. When Larry Triplett started, he had 3 additional partners, 4 McDonald owners, Ernie Adair, and they came out of the McDonald's restaurant business, and they found the right mix of putting monies together to figure out how we expand. You know, Evans, talk a little bit about how you guaranteed that. And then I want to talk a little about public-private partnerships and how that adds to the stack. The former mayor of Broward County just walked in, Dale Holness. And one of the things he always said when he kept looking at public-private partnerships, thank you, how do we bring money to the table? But talk about when you decide to buy a hotel, you said that the bank is not going to give you money or guarantee that debt. How do you do that by putting the parts together and getting to the point where they will look favorably upon your deal?
First and foremost, you need to find a good deal. So just because it's
Say that again, a good deal.
First and foremost, you need to find a good deal. And people come to me all the time and saying, hey, I'm looking at this hotel, you look at it, and sometimes I don't want to break their heart to let them know you're overpaying, it's not the right market, something's wrong with it. So my philosophy is simple. It's basis, basis, basis. So I'm all about trying to be, if the market is selling for 200 a key, can I be all in for 125 a key? And it's just really simple. Because this industry is risky. There's market risk. There's just all kinds of risk. But it's also very rewarding. And I like to give myself as much room as possible for downturn and things that happen that are outside of my control, because they happen all the time. So from a standpoint of debt, yes, when you're in your earlier stages or so, and you're doing smaller deals, to say 10 million or less, you're going to need to sign a personal guarantee. So, which means that if something goes wrong and you're guaranteeing $5-6 million of debt or so, if the bank doesn't collect that from, you know, a foreclosure process or whatever delta is left, they're coming after you personally to cover that.
Your personal assets, meaning your house?
Everything. You have to provide your personal financial statements to the lenders or so. They want to know your liquidity, they want to know your assets, and at the end of the day, you know, you have to provide them updates on this on an annual basis, sometimes semi-annual basis. And if something goes wrong, God forbid, that's going to be the case. So from a standpoint of trying to de-risk from just investment in hotels, I no longer do personal guarantees. I'm doing larger deals or so. So I always look for non-recourse debt. It may cost me a little more, but I sleep better at night, right? But at the same time, you know, we do have some risks, and we have to still sign what's called, I don't want to confuse everybody, like bad boy carve-outs. If I do something wrong, then the lenders will come after me personally. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but that's kind of what I've done. But when it comes to partners or so, when you're the sponsor, like my partners are not signing on the debt. That's why I get paid. And that's why I let my partners know that, you know, I have to collect money for the additional risk that I take on behalf of the partnership. So I don't put any of my partners on the debt. It's only me, or if someone wants to really participate in what's called the promote or the carried interest, I might allow them to be the GP, but they would also take some of that risk. But typically, I take that risk by myself.
And so when you hear these people say that I want to do a deal, but I want you to guarantee the deal, which means if it goes south, you don't know them, that guarantee is going to be executed. Warren, let's talk a little bit about public-private partnerships. We recently, remember we visited a deal in St. Pete recently, we talked with the city, John, both Johns and Sam. Yeah, this will across the street, actually this is a public-private partnership too, as well as across the street. So when you look at municipalities and CRAs and how do you get them to help? And you talk a little bit, Coach Rich, about the capital stack. If I'm going to buy something, I'm layering it. I've got to have my own money. I want to invest the money. But what's sweet if I can get some city, municipality, which is your money as a taxpayer, to put in that deal. And again, when you talk about, again, you can go from large deals to small deals. Evans, did your parents give you $20 million, $100 million like they did to Trump? So Evan's parents, like most of
No,
us.
don't, that joke is no joke. No.
Evans, Kendra, Warren, and by the way, when I talked to Warren one day, he made a commitment to Virginia State, and part of the commitment because his parents went to school there. White schools, and you're the son of a sharecropper, or grandson of a sharecropper? Great grandson of a sharecropper, okay. Man, I get that. But the thing about that commitment, public-private partnership, the hotel across the street, $545 million, $20 million contributed to the city, but why did they contribute it? Regentrification, jobs, improving the ability of the convention center to attract business, additional space. So if you can find a value proposition to bring to the brand and bring to the investor, and Evans, I think there was one, actually new hotel down the street. And by the way, publicly, you have a restaurant on the rooftop. You have a restaurant there, right? You know where I'm going, you have a restaurant there.
Okay, it's a full service hotel. There's a hotel restaurant. I do not have a restaurant on the rooftop. I'm in the process of developing the rooftop. And
As a restaurant.
no,
As a bar.
A rooftop bar or lounge. It's really, I don't like the restaurant business, so I'm not.
That's a good point. Evans doesn't like the restaurant business. I know a guy that has a bunch of restaurants that have done well, and maybe unprofitable. That's my point. And so you think about it. You want to make more money, then bring in that guy that has 70 restaurants to run the restaurant business. I'm sorry.
No, I'm super happy to do that, but I don't know if you put me on the spot, but I'm not.
I don't mean to put it on the spot.
In all reality, what I'm going to be doing is I want to actually do 85% beverage and 15% food. This is really going to be very much so beverage driven.
85 beverage. Can you make money off that model, Warren?
You can. Better shot at that than you can selling food. You know, it's definitely doing the right thing.
That's the first speaker consultant. But talk a little bit, the DWI deal, talk a little bit about public-private partnership and how you lay it out in fact.
I have a deal in Philly,
Exactly.
in DC or so. So I'm doing a development deal in both locations, Philadelphia and DC. And believe it or not, in today's economic environment, with the interest rates, even with free land, I'm paying $1 of ground lease over 99 years, things still are not penciling today. I don't want to discourage everybody, but that's just the reality of what we're seeing. So I guess in DC, we have to, because it's a public-private partnership, there's a multifamily component, so we are providing affordable housing, we're doing what's called First Source, we're providing opportunities to CPEs, minority businesses, so a lot of things that the city wants us to do, but in exchange, we have gaps, and we go to the city for subsidies, so rather it's tax abatements, rather it's infrastructure dollars, or whatever the case may be, to help us fill the capital stack. But a lot of times, these municipalities, they do hire smart consultants, so you're just not gonna, pull a fast one over them or so. So you're gonna sit down with their consultants, they're gonna really scrub your underwriting, and they wanna know that you're at a but-for stage, and these gaps are real. And hopefully, collectively, we can get creative to figure out how we can close these gaps and actually execute these projects. So this project is going to be a waterfront project right near the old RFK Stadium. If you're at the wharf and you're on your boat, you keep going, to the Anacostia River, you're right on Hill East. So it's going to be the next largest development in DC. It's about 150 acres, the RFK site, so we hope the commanders come back. So we're super excited because we're going to be doing about 1,100 multifamily units over 7 years. We're going to be building right now a residence inn is in the plan, retail, and we're doing some condos and some townhomes.
So Warren, you and I sat through a meeting with an elected official recently in a city where that city was spending $1 billion to regentrify an area, and we said to them, you know, we can put a team together, not only get part of the F&B, part of the hotel, and look at other stuff. Because a lot of times, African Americans aren't an intricate player because A, we don't know, and B, they don't think that we can do it. And that's why it's critical to what Evan said, is how do you put that great team together? If Sam or John, Pro Johns are part of that team, you know, that's gonna make us a lot more attractive. You think the future of public-private partnerships and African Americans can play a larger role? Because a lot of development, close as you can correct me if I'm wrong, if I look around DC, I don't see a lot of public-private development that have African American ownership and investment. Any thoughts on that, how we can play a larger role? Go ahead, Don.
In addition to the public-private partnerships, just meeting, number one, with your government officials, where you want to build and looking for is your best, great opportunity. In addition to looking at, you can look at other places where there's an opportunity zone. You're meeting with those government officials, you can get a tax abatement or tips. That economic development board, what is their 5-year plan? What is their 15-year plan? What is their 20-year plan? You want to know where the demand generators are going. You know, a lot of times everybody, you don't stop and talk to your government official prior to building. Once you identify that location, it's extremely important because guess what? They are going to be your partner as well. They want to make sure you're successful. Why? Because your tax dollars and revenue are going to come back to them, and you're creating that synergy and that partnership. So that's something that's important as well in those respects.
Yeah, you know, so when Kamala Harris becomes president, interest rates will probably go down. But I always tell, let's take a moment. Can't start that. But what I tell people, I said Kamala Harris, right? Kamala, say it like Kamala. But here's what I tell people, and Mayor Holiness is always on my case about this: be a friend before you need a friend. He's going to leave here today to go to the fundraiser. We have to put the right people in elected positions to help us. Don't just show up and say, I got an idea. Well, I got it. Where were you when I needed your cash expertise? Not always for cash, but you know, our commitment from an industry, whether it's education, the Thurgood Marshall folks there, and one I got to tell you, you've got about 500 or 600 rooms in the hotel. I want you to book a longer contract. Yeah, he's listening, trust me. He's listening. Want you to book a longer contract, spend more money, because our commitment to education is to say, how do we create more Evans jobs, more Kendra? How do we get, and I gotta take my hat off to Warren. Every HBCU, every school that he does business with, he goes above and beyond because of the commitment. Evans like to say you don't want to break their heart, but I always get these calls. If they call a brand or somebody and the guy doesn't have money or the right amount of money, they'll call me, Sandy, they got a nice guy that wants to build a hotel. So they'll call me. Can you call him? I asked how much money do you have? I got $50, but I want to run the hotel. I want a spa. I want a swimming pool in Atlanta. But we've got to figure out how to help our elected officials help us. Number one, we've got to take Larry Triplett idea where he has his son now getting ready to get into business. And Larry goes and look for money too. And because he's been so successful, it's easy to say, I'm an investor down. But Evans is right. CRA, well, John said it too. CRAs, historical tax credits, anything that you can get to help make the cost of the debt less. And some of that is a burn off, but you have to pay back. And some of the CRAs, Warren, even the couple of deals that we've done, it's money that you provide the incentives to employ people within the district of that area. It's either paid back or burned off at a reduced rate. John?
I was going to say, does everybody know what a CRA is?
I'm sorry. A community redevelopment agency. We've got one in Broward County for Lauderdale. Pat.
South restaurant there.
Exactly. Well, you know what? So, Warren just opened a restaurant in Pompano Beach called South. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, it's a restaurant we opened about 6 to 8 months ago with a local partner. But because the community redevelopment agency wanted a restaurant to seat that area, they were willing to put in a big chunk of the capital. And we've got rent free for 5 years. So, other than that, the deal wouldn't work. But it's working for the city, it's working for us. And I think Andy, if you look at this hotel as an example, Andy was correct. Norm was smart enough to get some money from the city in the deal. Then he used pension funding to be a big chunk of the capital stack. Then he found a guy like me who was dumb enough at the time to sign a lease in a restaurant. I'll never do that again. But we signed a lease for $350,000 a year in rent for the food and beverage opportunity here. And so I looked at it from my perspective and said, okay, I'm getting a fully built out restaurant for $350,000 a year in rent next to the convention center. Great deal. Who would have ever known that COVID would have taken place? So I'm paying $350,000 a year for 2.5, 3 years when the place was empty. Great for the hotel side of my investment or the hotel side of it. Horrible for the restaurant side of it. But it was a smart move on Norm's part as a hotel developer to say, I'm going to reduce my risk and exposure. The one thing that will take a hotel down faster than anything is the food and beverage piece of it. It is hard to make money in a hotel food and beverage operation. Prime example, this food and beverage operation last week did $45,000, $50,000. This week we'll do $175,000. So we did $60,000 here yesterday. Thanks for that. Keep drinking. But you think about
your lease was $350,000.
I'm sorry?
Your lease was $350,000. I'm doing the math. 60. Oh.
But you think about, being able to coach you who's the assistant GM here, if he were running that, and 1 week you do $40,000, the next week you do $175,000, and you got to staff up for that without going out and getting contract labor. So by us having a lot of restaurants here, we brought people in here. We probably had 60, 70 people here yesterday working, most of which were from other restaurants that we brought over. So we have the capability of doing that as a food and beverage restaurant operator that a hotel would not necessarily be doing. They would probably bring in contract labor. Next thing you know, there's a union guy in here, person in here sneaking in the back door. So those are the kind of things that I always say, if you're an operator, if you're developing a hotel, using the city's money to help with the capital stack, being smart about how much equity versus the debt you put on, what kind of debt you put on. And then from an operating perspective, look at letting the rooms company operate the rooms because they're good at that. Find a food and beverage operator that's good at that piece of it and let them do that.
Go ahead, John Evans.
I was just going to dive a little deeper into that because a couple of key points. Food and beverage is tough in hotels. It is hands down the toughest part of the business. You heard Evans say he'd rather be beverage centric than food because there's more profit in the booze. When you really break it down, it really depends on what your hold is going to be on the asset. And then if your food and beverage is breaking even, it won't affect your cap rate, your capitalization rate on the sale that much. If you're losing money on your food and beverage, your cap rate just got killed. If it gets hit by a point, it could be $1 million in value on the sale. So really important that the heads and beds model is where the profitability is truly in a hotel. Unless you're doing, the convention center hotel, you've got 8 or 10 food and beverage outlets, fancy steakhouses, this and that, rooftops where you can drive a huge amount of revenue. Typically, on a hotel that you're gonna invest in, 100 to 150 room hotel, food and beverage is gonna be the make or break when it comes to the sale process of that asset from a cap rate standpoint.
Sure. I mentioned you got to do a good deal, and I feel remiss if I don't talk about it specifically on the screen or so. So when I buy an existing hotel, my strategy is to buy something that's broken, something that has a problem, something that's mismanaged grossly, something that's underbranded, undercapitalized, something that's wrong with, but it has to have a good location. So that's the system. So case in point, we purchased an asset 2 blocks from here, okay? And when we bought it, it was grossly underperforming the market. So this is one of the competitive hotels. This Courtyard, the Residence Inn that's attached to this. And we basically looked at our basis for when we were going in. And even though in this interest rate environment, it's crazy if I tell you what I'm paying in interest rate right now. You would think that I'm crazy. But my basis is so comfortable that I can afford to pay that high interest rate right now, with the hopes that interest rates, normalize in the next 18 months or so, in 2 years, and I can refi. So basically, our strategy was to take this underperforming asset, and I love extended stay, and the only thing that was available, we chose Hyatt House. And actually, I see some of my operations folks, if you want to raise your hand, that are in the room here, that are going to be running. So we're coming after you, Warren, because we're competing against this hotel, just to let you know.
Ding, ding, ding.
But nevertheless, so after we're all done our renovations, we will be, and I'll tell you this, we'll be all in for low 300s a key. The AC right around the corner, Apple bought it for $500 a door. Warren and Norm, they want to sell this hotel for $500 a door. So I like my basis right now. I don't have to be number one. So we're expecting the Residence Inn to be number one, the Homewood to be number two. We're expecting to be number 3 in the Courtyard 4. That's what we're expecting. And that's what I'm putting on my team. But the point is you just have to buy right and give yourself room for either you're paying higher interest rates, or you're going to have market conditions that you can't control. But I just wanted you to have a very specific example of a deal.
Evan, I would be remiss if I didn't mention, when Evan talked about his team, and you look at his team, they're not the traditional hotel people that you would see. They're folks of color. So we have an impact beyond just owning an asset. I mean, this young sister over the front desk, manager, raise your hand. The folks in the delegate restaurant. So it's really an organic approach to this. As we invest, we kind of change the paradigm. So I want to talk a little bit about the South. We're working a deal in Fort Lauderdale. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I was asked to move into the neighborhood, and I said no. But the business said no, but my office said no. I made a mistake. It's going to cost an order more to get there now. But you think about it, Warren, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mayor, there's not a sit-down restaurant 1 block from downtown because it's called regentrification. And we're saying to the CRA, if you want us there to serve the community, then I need you to build it up. I need you to make sure that I'm going to be successful coming in, because forget my ego, I've got to make money. And so, John Lancaster, and you talked about it earlier when you said, what are CRAs? A lot of times, when we do sessions like this, other people charge you hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, and they don't know what the hell they're talking about. We bring our partners who make the commitment to say, we want you to have the right information. So if you can learn with the CRAs, you can go and talk to an elected official who really want to regentrify the community and they want to be part of it. Kendra, your model is, and I mean, think about it, how long have you been since you got out of school? Warren doesn't have any hair, Ellen is great, both of is great. So, I mean, when did you get out of school?
2015.
2013, which means she's probably smarter than us. She got there quicker than we did. But it's not any special magic hocus pocus trick. When I first met him, I thought he had some magic hocus pocus. But he's just a grinder, smart guy with integrity. And this is with all the panel. Can any one of these guys with sufficient money, a network, we've got to do what the Asian Americans have done, friends and family. Your uncle, your cousin, you know, you may not be the rich guy, but putting a group of folks together that know and can commit. When Warren left Marriott, I believe Marriott helped you with your first deal, you see. So that means people saw value in partnering with them. You've got to create the value too. Kozovich, this is for you because Kosovo, Kozovich, Kosovo.
Listen, I've known the man for 20 years. He cannot pronounce my last name. He's killing it. 20 years.
I'm getting better. So, there's a whole team of guys at these brands. And you can call them, and they can walk. I mean, think about it. You can sometimes call people when they're busy, but you can call these guys, whether it's Bill Forte, John, or Tom, and say, I've got an idea. And the good thing talking to us is, Andy, that's a dumb idea. And sometimes they are dumb ideas. And I tell Ashley all the time. I don't normally come up with great ideas all the time. Most of the time I do though. But if you want to be successful in this business, these are the guys that don't want to fail.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Look, Andy brings up a great point. If you talk to John Lancaster or Sam or myself, our teams have been doing this for a really long time. You know, I've got a veteran team out there in the field that have been doing hotel development for 30 years. Some folks doing it for 25. The beauty is you can call me and I'll be like, all right, I don't know that pin corner exactly. Let me get one of my guys on the phone and we'll talk about it and we can tell you if you're starting to even walk down the right path or whether you should run away in the other direction. That's the beauty of what we bring to the table. Because number one, if you'll pardon the language, we're not going to BS you. We're going to tell you the truth. We're going to be straight up front. And that's the way you start to build the trust. And when you build the trust, then you'll build the hotel. And that's how this works. But I've been doing this for 40 years. I'm getting a little long in the tooth. But my team's got, between my other 5 team members doing this, we have over 110 years experience doing this. And so we know the street corners. We know where you want to go. Pick up the phone, we'll have a chat. As long as you want to chat, we'll do it. And my counterparts up here, they will do the exact same thing. Because that's what we do well. We like it.
Great, and I know we're talking about large numbers, you know. Evans mentioned 300 a key that he purchased his hotel and selling it for 500 a key. So
$300 a key?
$1,000.
Oh, sorry.
$100,000 a key or $500,000 a key. Those are relatively large deals. Most people getting started don't typically start off in those large type of investments. Right. So they're bringing it down, whether that's a 60-room hotel instead of $500,000 a key. In those secondary and tertiary markets, you may spend $80,000, $70,000, $100,000 a key, whatever that is. Whether that's a conversion or a new construction, just so you have an opportunity. So I just don't want to deter anyone out there thinking that they have to have $200 million again to be able to get into the hotel business.
You're not going to deter them because nobody deterred Kendra. Can you talk a little bit about your assets, where they are in terms of per key purchase, and unit size? I mean, numbers of rooms.
So within the 3 hotels, we have one that's a 61-key Hampton, a 99-key Hampton Suites, and then a 67-key Holiday Inn Express, and we're working on a 72-key Fairfield right now.
And you need investors for that 72-key put it out there, guys. Partner.
We always need investors, so yes. But the point is to start with where you're at. You don't want to, on your first deal, go after a 200 key property because you're still learning in that one too. But also, most often, a lender is not going to give that to you on your first deal. So starting smaller, getting smart, and knowing how to scale, really drive operating efficiencies, like Evan had mentioned. That's the key in a property, and you can do that easiest when you're really able to wrap your hands around the entire thing and be all the way through it. So within those types of properties, my focus right now is the limited service, select service hotels. So those are things like Hampton Inn, Hilton Garden Inn on the Hilton side. It's your courtyards like this without all of the F&B that they have in this one. And Residence Inns on the Marriott side, Comfort Inn Suites if we're on the Choice side. So those are the types of properties that have been proven every single economic downturn, whether it's COVID, whether it was a housing market crisis, whether it was with the September 11th attacks, that profit margin in that segment of the hotel industry recovers faster and takes less of a loss. So when you're going into hotels, especially on your first deal, you want the easy deal because you want to be successful your first time around. Oftentimes if you're not successful your first time in this industry, it will be very hard to get a second chance. As Evan said, that's a big loss if you're going in as the guarantor. So it'll be hard to recover. It will also be hard to bounce back with investors believing you can get it done, brands believing you can get it done. We're a very small industry, so we will all know. So with those limited service hotels, when you're not having the restaurant to operate and you're really being able to focus on rooms, you can then know how to staff better, have better operating efficiencies, have a higher cash yield, which will then pay your debt service, which is also crucial right now as interest rates are so high. So those are the deals we want.
Yeah, I think I asked Andy just to touch a little bit on the deal we did, which was a relatively small deal, but it's 135 room home and suites. We own the land already as part of our office. We could have built another office building, which we didn't need. So we said, okay, we changed the zoning to be able to do the hotel. So we put a 135 room hotel deal together. But we were required to do a pool, as an example, swimming pool in a Homewood Suites. I said, no one's coming to a Homewood Suites and then want to stay, go to the swimming pool. Plus we had an athletic facility a block away that we had a deal where our guests could go there. So I called Andy and said, Andy, you got to get us out of the swimming pool. It's a drain on the B&L. So Andy called Hilton a couple times, I talked to John or who, but suddenly we were able to get the pool weight, and we changed that swimming pool into a larger meeting room. So now we've removed it from being a cost center to a revenue generating part of the hotel. And when I look at that hotel now, we're running about 85% occupancy, pushing close to a 200 ADR, average daily rate. I get the numbers every morning. Yesterday, out of 135 rooms, we had 132 of them booked up, so that's always a good thing. So when you look at that and say, okay, I could have said, okay, the land is free, so it's going to pencil out, well, not free, but already purchased. But you look at other ways to refine the deal before you ever break ground to give yourself a better chance of success. Because we, with that hotel, also ran right into COVID. Up right in the middle of it. Who would have thought? So as Evan said earlier, it's the unexpected, it's the what ifs, it's oh shit. You got to be prepared for that in any deal that you do. When I started my company, I only had $100,000 in the deal, so it's a heavily leveraged transaction. But we've made it now for 32 years. Next year we'll budget revenue of $1 billion. So you can start in one place and 30 years later end up somewhere else, but it's got to be a very methodical approach. You've got to have diverse stream of income. You've got to have really never look at a deal and say, well, okay, it's about the best I can get. Always think about how do I turn it around, look at it from all aspects, and try to make it better. And never stop trying to figure out how to value engineer a deal, even after you're into it. You know, I'm going to be meeting with Norm on this property very soon. Okay, I think there's an opportunity to renegotiate this. We have to. Okay, so especially after hearing the background. Exactly I thought he was going to be here today.
He has, he has, even physical, he has that thing with penis and his hippos both.
I'm going to get him.
Before you go, I just want to make one point on that pool. When Ross called me and we talked about the economics, in my mind, if he can create a profit center on a part of the asset that's underutilized, and I'm going to tell you, this is what real partnerships, they kept on, no, made one phone call to my partners at Hilton. And they said, give me a few days. And I made the same argument. We're all going to make money and we all want to be successful. In a few days, we had it a yes. And of the 135 rooms, you had how many? Last night you were, yeah. So, to me, that's critical. Evans, you going to add to that?
Yeah, we're actually, the rooftop we're doing, we're converting a pool as well too, because it's non-revenue generating and nobody uses pools downtown. But Kendra, they were saying something correct. The deal I was talking about was a big $300,000 a room deal. So just real fast, the deal we bought before that, we purchased it from Host, which is a REIT. And we bought a Marriott Suites right outside of Chicago for $60,000 a door, okay, 60. And no disrespect, because Marriott is not continuously investing in the Marriott Suites brand. Hilton didn't have any representation in the market from a select service standpoint. We were able to buy it unencumbered because it was Host. So we converted it to a Homewood Hampton dual brand, and we're all in for 100 a door. You know, so I just want to give more and more examples of just how philosophy.
And what would that cost you to build?
It's all concrete. That thing would cost $350.
So there's the point, right? His basis is in at $100,000 a door. To go out and build that today at $300,000 a door, it probably would not pass.
Right. That's right.
Right?
And again, you talk about relationships. That's why we created NABHOOD, because it's not just about Andy Ingram, it's about all of us collectively. And Evans, what year did you buy that Holiday Inn Express in Martinsville? Do you remember?
2010.
2010. And he was converting from Holiday Inn Express to a Comfort. And we needed, I think we had a gap of 45 days or 60 days, and I called a guy named Brown Kessel, who's now retired. I said, Brown, Evans is going to convert from, and of course this happens all the time, from your plan, but I need you to keep your reservation system in place so I don't lose thousands of dollars. And the relationship was, we got it done. They wanted the name off, and once they cut that connectivity, which is the reservation system, and that's why it's so critical to have a brand. The other thing, you do not have to operate the hotel. This is not McDonald's. I have no interest, nor do I want to learn how to check somebody into the hotel. I want to be able to read P&Ls. You know, so we have third-party management companies who are experts, and I shouldn't say this in front of Evans, if they don't do a good deal, they get fired because they're managing my money. And if you're managing my money, I really want you to be successful. So if you want to be successful at Hilton or Marriott or Choice, they're going to tell you, strongly suggest, or may not even do business with you. You don't have experience to manage the hotel, but they're going to tell you, get a qualified partner to manage that hotel.
Yeah. Hands down, the smartest thing you can do. Look, I came out of hotel operations some 40 years ago when I worked for Hyatt Hotels. I ran big resorts all over the world, Caribbean. I cannot go in and run this hotel today. I'm not qualified to do it. Technology's changed, the systems have changed. Yeah, the principles are the same. It would take me too long to do it and learn it and understand it. Hire a qualified third-party management company to take that burden off your back. Hands down, smartest move you could ever make.
In some of the smaller hotels, you can hire a qualified GM that has experience, that may be able to be a DOS and a GM with the right incentives that will work. You want to say something else?
You just have to ask yourself, like, a lot of the whole members, they're
Excuse
on.
me. I got this jacket now.
A lot of the, a lot of the OHOA members, they're owner operators, right? And there's a income stream on operating hotels, and a lot of them grew up in hotels, right, Jay? That's not a lot of our philosophy, a lot of our strategy. So we're investor asset managers, so not operators. If that's what you do, you have to pick and choose what lane you want to go in. And sometimes having smaller properties can't even afford a management company. To be honest with you, it's a small property I had management companies, but it wasn't until we had to manage it ourselves, and because of my partner, we had operations experience, and we got a good GM. But I was scared to death that GM quit, because that means one of us would have to go in that hotel and run it. But we were able to sell it for a profit or so. But it didn't work out until we really got a GM who couldn't afford a management company because it was too small. But that's our
So the great thing is that he's really not being truthful. The reason why he's successful because Evans is a very detailed person. Detailed. And if he takes your money, he's committed. If I go to his house at 10 o'clock at night he wants to go and answer the phone and really do the work because it's a responsibility. So, long story, John, you'll remember this. Downtown Atlanta, and I said it wouldn't work. Underground, a bad area, and I think who owned that? George State owned that building?
it was used for student housing.
Student housing. Couldn't get financing. We're at Hunter. In one room, there's a reception. We have a reception going in one room. Evans is in the back room working the phone, calling everybody to try to raise money. And I remember that deal because, you know, I looked at outside of your hotel, and I've seen more black people this weekend that I've seen in the whole year in Fort Lauderdale and Broward County, you know. And so I said, Evans, you know, underground, I think at that time, they going underground, but Evans was successful based on tenacity. And John, I don't know if I can say this because even financing was so tough, he came up with a real creative way to get it financed. But because he worked so hard on that deal, when you sold it, that's why one of your best performing assets in terms of return was your great.
Yeah, and the bottom line was, I bought it after the great financial crisis. The guy before me paid $25 million before, and I paid $5 million. And it was a bunch of people. There was guys hanging out, people were loitering, homeless folks were outside of it. But I was 3 blocks from the Ritz-Carlton, and I was downtown Atlanta. So everybody said, do not do it, do not do it, do not do it. But that basis was so attractive to me. And I believe in being a contrarian. So when everybody want to run away, I want to find opportunities what they're running away from to go to the, where they're running away from to try to find opportunities. So that was the best of them.
I mean, in terms of return.
In terms of return, we did like a 40+ IRR on the deal.
Right.
3 years. One of my investors is in the room, Michelle, he's in that deal. Yep.
Who used to run what was that called, Zanzibar here in D.C. When I first came to D.C., I used to go to Zanzibar all the time. Now my son goes, so they have a new bar, and I can't go to the same bar with him. But, John Lancaster, you go to every major, just about African-American organization, whether it's the NBA, whether it's the Black McDonald's Association. We're now working to deal with the NFL and the NBA to get these guys in the business. How critical is it to find the right mix, educate people to say, this is a great industry because we're bringing the management, and for the first time this year, we had McDonald's as one of our sponsors. And when they said you got a meeting with McDonald's, I thought somebody named McDonald's. And I remembered how they treated the African American owners, and you know, it's Larry. And I kept saying, well, why do you want African Americans in the business? And they called me up one day. And they told me something I never thought. They said, we've never recruited African Americans before. But let me tell you why we like their model. The hotel investors are very passive. We're not involved in day-to-day operations and hire experts to do that. The McDonald's guys who wants to run a restaurant, they want you to come in and work the fries, and I don't need to work any more fries. You know, flip hamburgers. And so it's a great mix. And again, you have to be able to raise some money to get to the next step. But how do we get John to understand, for people to understand, they can do what they do, still invest with us?
Right, great question. So you mentioned that I go to all these conferences. It's not just me, so I have a dedicated team.
Well, all of us. That's right. We just give somebody else some choice.
I do. So Marcus.
Who's Marcus?
Marcus, you
Marcus, great man. So if you got any questions, see Marcus in the back. Go ahead, John.
So that moves there. And again, and for us to find, where are we going to find those people who are interested in hotel ownership? So that's the reason we do that. That's the reason why Marcus is out there and holding hands. You know, you may come to us and say, hey, what can I do to be ready before I actually talk to the brand, before I am set? You want to make sure you have all of your T's crossed and I's dotted prior to doing that. So holding your hand and walking that step by step is extremely important. So to make sure, again, we get that deal, and again, the hundreds of millions of dollars is, you can find a deal, as Evan said, for $5 million. So even if you take a look at that in today's dollars, if you're putting 20% down, you can do the math to see what that is and how can you come up with that revenue. And it may not just be you, it's you that have an opportunity to partner with 2 or 3 people, or invest with Kendra, or invest with Evans with what you have. So that's why it's paramount and important. It's something we've been doing for 21 years at Choice to make sure we get more from the organization.
So we're going to finish this segment, but before we finish, I'm going to ask the folks from the Thurgood Marshall Scholarship Fund. We went to the United Negro Scholarship Gala. Was that the United Negro Scholarship? These are the Thurgood Marshall College Fund. We partner with education. And you guys, both attorneys, and having to negotiate with these guys, particularly her, it's almost, you got to figure out how to go in. Tell us about 2 seconds about the United Negro College Fund and how we can help. Why don't you grab the mic over there? Should be on already. Okay, stand there.
Testing. There we go.
You got 2 seconds.
Well, I will tell you as a legal professional, there's nothing that can be done in 2 seconds. but I appreciate the opportunity to give you a public service announcement, and this is both a business and philanthropic opportunity. So my name is David Shepard, and I'm the Chief Business and Legal Officer with the Thurgood Marshall College Fund. And TMCF is a membership organization of 54 publicly supported historically Black colleges and universities, and predominantly Black institutions. Right now, we happen to be hosting our Leadership Institute conference across the street. We have over 500 students present, over 1,000 people present for our signature event. And it is an opportunity to get our student population internships and other professional development experiences with top employers in corporate America. Represented at this year's conference, we have Apple, Boeing, Medtronic, Verizon, Coca-Cola, you name it. 80 partners present. And that's the way the program works every year. And one of the things that we do provide, beyond providing scholarships for students to matriculate towards graduation, whatever academic discipline they happen to be attending at one of our institutions, is provide them with professional development opportunities. So they have the opportunity to marry in whatever academic discipline they happen to be in with professional development experiences with some of those employers we talked about. But we run hundreds of events of the Nature of Leadership Institute a year, many of which are six-figure transactions between meeting rooms, sleeping rooms, meeting space, food and beverage. The event that's taking place right now across the street, seven-figure transaction, multiple of them a year. So I think there's an opportunity for a partnership with the representatives on the stage and the attendees in the audience to do something collectively, which is in your business interests and the interests of our students and our institutions. So I welcome the opportunity in the future to dialogue with your folks and we can share information and talk offline.
I think it's a great opportunity. And one of the things I want to ask you guys to do is continue to meet at Black-owned hotels. Black-owned hotels are Hilton, Marriott, Comfort, and give us a long-term contract. The second thing is how do we share partnerships? If I'm going to do business with you and I want your schools to hire Compton Hospitality, let Brian do the facilities work. We've got to find a perfect combination that as we spend our money, how do we get the maximum return? Warren said something to me last week. He's spending money with Brown Foreman, who decided they're going to trash the liquor program. Well, guess what? We're going to trash our commitment to buying their product. You don't do business with us, you don't do business with you. Thank you. I'm apologetic about that. The other thing, Warren came with a good program. Warren talked a little bit about how do we get owners in the restaurant. If you come to work with Compton Hospitality in year one, want to talk a little bit about that 1 second before we go wrap up?
Okay. So I think Andy is describing our operating partner.
Thank you very much.
Our operating partner model now is that we allow a person to come into the company and own 5% of the restaurant within year 5. They can cash out at that point in time and start over again. But that payout can be anywhere from $150,000 to $250,000 young person earns it actually. The other program we're working on right now is when we go to an HBCU, then we go as close as possible and do a restaurant there. So at Virginia State, we've got a restaurant not far away. So we can develop students on campus. They can also work and train in the restaurant while they're doing an internship or while they're in school. Hopefully they come on board with us for 3 to 5 years after graduation, and then we try to set them up as a franchisee of that brand. So a young person, before they hit 30, say somewhere around 27, can actually be in their own restaurant business from graduation to 27 is the plan and goal. We just believe that sets us apart from our competition. So we're doing it at Virginia State, we're doing it at Hampton University, we're putting a Milk and Honey just about right on campus. Hampton owns the shopping center there. The restaurant will open up in probably 6 months, and then we'll start developing young people in the program while they're in school. So,
And then you become owners.
they can become owners.
Thanks for that leadership. 1 minute to wrap up. Evans closes out. Evans, Kosovich, Lancaster, Kendra. Evans, closing thoughts on how we can do as we prepare for our next panelist.
This is a fun business. I actually enjoy working with everyone. I mean, it's a small industry, but it's a big industry. So, but most importantly, education. Pick your partners wisely. I haven't done that, throughout my entire career or so. But a great strategy is to just get in and invest and learn before you jump out there and do going to grow yourself, but I'm just here to vouch for the industry. That it's been good to me, and I plan to continue in this industry, and just get yourself educated. Keep doing these conferences and meeting people.
John?
Yeah, keep educating yourself, use our programs, leverage our programs, come to our seminars that we do, that Andy talked about earlier, that John does and Sam does, we all do them. Take advantage of those, communicate. We have no problem talking, steer you in the right direction, partner you up with the right people, continue to make the tent a little bit bigger.
And we have a Hilton workshop at Hilton at 12 is coming up in next month, I think it is.
Yeah.
And if you're interested in coming and you have some money, send us an email, make sure you get invited. Sam?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to be here. I think Mary and all the brands up here is committed to expanding our ownership base, and so we certainly look forward to working with you as opportunities come up.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so when I started in this industry, I was brilliant enough to know I wasn't brilliant. So I asked many questions, and I stole shamelessly from the people who were very wise who knew that industry. So I would just implore you to do that and ask questions and continue your education and learning. And at Choice Hotels, again, we're committed, just like the other brands, to making sure we develop more underrepresented minorities. And not something that's going away. It's something that is very important and very critical.
Kendra?
The biggest takeaways that I think everyone should have is that in order to be a successful hotel owner, you need to, one, develop a plan and develop your network. So everyone's take home for today should be creating your business plan, understanding what area of the industry you're coming into. Every smart hotel has a business plan that's done every year. It's retweaked every month, week to make sure that the strategy is getting the result that you need, so stay on track. And our industry is small. It's all about relationships. It's about relationships with the brand to vouch with you, for the lender, for your brokers. So use this as a networking, but also continue to network outside of the space as well.
Juan?
I think I'm a restaurant guy first and foremost who happened to get into hotels, but if you think about it, J.W. Marriott didn't start in the hotel business. He started with a root beer stand here in D.C. Then he moved into contract food service, then into hotels. There is nothing wrong with starting in another aspect and growing into the hotel business. I've got a pizza operation not far from here, probably a few blocks from here, 1,500 square feet. That one unit will do almost $5 million this year and throw off $1.7 million of cash. Now that investment to build one of those is about $400,000. So you can throw off half the income of a limited service hotel. So what I'm saying now, I wish I had a lot more of those particular units, but I'm saying if there's nothing wrong with starting small, especially to younger entrepreneurs. Start small and building, having a systematic way to get to where you want to end up.
Thank you. As we transition to the next group of panelists, we're going to send all the attendees, make sure you register their contact information so you get in touch with them and learn about the program. Help me thank these great panelists. Thank you guys. Good afternoon. We're not using kids to be seated. No, actually, let's take a quick photo, but Laura, Greg, Stanley, I want to do a quick transition so we don't lose people. And just take a quick picture. Warren, Kendra, John, Sam, real quickly. Hey, Sam. I want to do real
next segment of multicultural tourism. My clicker is not working. My clicker is not working.
Ladies and gentlemen, stay for the next exciting panel. Grand Tours, now updated on Grand Tourism.
Ladies and gentlemen, where's the first slide? Can you put the first original PowerPoint up? Original PowerPoint. No, I need the original PowerPoint program up. I need the original PowerPoint program up. Okay. Shimano, can you put the original PowerPoint? Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we talked about owning hotels. We talked about making them profitable. Turn the volume up so I can outdraw the people that are talking while we're trying to make a presentation. Please, 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 give us an opportunity to continue the program. One of the greatest movements in travel is the continuing expenditure of what essentially is African Americans spending money in the travel business. We tend to forget that you can play a role in this industry and not have to be a hotel owner. You can be a tour operator. You can be a restaurateur. You can be a bus company, and you don't need a bus. You think about it, the last study done in 2019, black travelers in the U.S., we spent $1.4 billion in travel. That's a lot of money. When I first started in the industry, I didn't have enough money to buy a hotel. I didn't have enough money to buy a bus, but I created the African American Heritage Tour in Fort Lauderdale. I figured out something. If I had a customer, I only needed a bus for 4 hours. So I leased a bus, I hired a historian, and I went to black-owned restaurants in the city, and I said to them, give me a price break on a lunch, and I'll bring black folks who are visiting your city to your restaurant. And we have that tour today. Very little expense to start. And so what I want to talk about in this segment is how we take advantage of the growing African American multicultural and heritage tourism market. How do we learn about golf courses? How do we learn about, if I want to buy, there's only 6 black brokers, 7 black hotel brokers in this country. One started with as a student, today he's selling hotels, and none of this guy, you know. But before I do this, I'm going to take a point of personal privilege and acknowledge the second highest ranking African American woman in the Biden administration, hopefully will be the Kamala administration, is Mrs. Campbell, an HHS, Assistant Secretary. She's responsible for Stanley Campbell, you know, and she's like the Catholic. So I'm going to ask the panelists to introduce themselves, starting with Laura Mandela, my good friend. And most of you have heard of Nelson Mandela. No, that's not Nelson Mandela's daughter.
Laura Mandela.
Excuse me. Somebody dropped headsets. Found it on the floor. Yours?
Laura born in actually Sicilian, not African, but very close to Africa, so we're still looking at the connection. My firm is Mandela Research, and we've been studying travel and tourism for over 2 decades. We work with large travel companies and destinations to help them better understand the marketplace.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Greg Chioso. I am the owner of the consulting firm, Chioso Consulting, but we launched a podcast called Something to Say, working in collaboration with iHeartMedia. We're featured on the Live Podcast Network. If you're not aware of it, Angel Lewis is the leading African-American female who has a Black-owned podcast platform. It represents about 54 Black podcasters, which we're all excited to be part of. And we focus on the issues of diversity, travel, and the contribution that we certainly bring to this aspect of the industry. So I'll share more insights.
Hi, my name is Sheila Alexander Reed. I am from DC, but currently in Philadelphia. I left New York Housing Administration to sell Philly. I sell Philly for a living. I bring Black and brown LGBTQ and faith-based meetings and conventions to the convention center. And so I like to say I don't sell the Liberty Bell, I don't sell the cheesesteaks, I sell the culture and the community. Thank you very much.
At one point, Philly used to be the #1 destination for African American travelers, and we're going to get back there with Sheila.
That's the goal. Thank you.
Perfect. Stanley?
I'm Stanley Campbell. Yes, I did come with Cheryl. I have a company, Force Associates, which messages into every point of cell pharmacy in the United States and 5 of the incorporated territories. But that's my day job, because I'm Jamaican and I have a second job. And I'm here today because I'm the only, we are the only African Americans that ever own 3 PGA country clubs. And we've owned 2 of them in Florida and 1 in North Carolina. Thank you.
And of course, Amari Head recently just signed up with Howard University. Dr. Harvey still here? But his day job before he got great here, he was a hotel broker. And really, he was a student very recently. I don't know what the hell happened here.
Good afternoon, I'm Omari, and the background is graduate Paramount Live and Project, some hotel brokerage in the body. So what I do is I help high net worth folks get into the hotel business. So briefly, we transacted over about 265 hotels, totaling over $1 billion, closed everywhere from Albuquerque, New Mexico, all the way to New York. So excited to be with you all here today. I feel like I had a presentation for about 30, 45 minutes.
I agree, but also talk a little bit about your new gig.
Absolutely, Executive Director of the Marriott Experiences Center for Hospitality Leadership at Howard University. So excited to be a part of that. The approach today is not a rebranding, but it is an interdisciplinary approach to hospitality and tourism. So some of our phenomenal students are learning about the intersection of hospitality where it's beyond operations. It's if you are in the school of business or you're in interior design, there's a place for you in hospitality to be able to bridge the gap.
And Marriott provided a facility of $20 million. Ashley Johnson started that program at Marriott, at Hollywood with Marriott. $20 million they provided? $21 million to help African Americans continue education. And Ashley, thank you for your service. I always kid Ashley and Omari when they first came to NABHOOD. Omari was Ashley's intern. You know, I like to say it because Tom Baltimore was Warren's intern. And look at the collaboration where we are. But I got to tell you that a couple of things. Travel is going to grow. Travel is going to grow based on, in my opinion, a couple of things. You've got to have a product to offer. I met Greg 30 years ago. I came to do a presentation of OIC in Philadelphia, and he was there. Not be long ago, I had him there. He did. It was formative, I don't mention it. But they were doing a program to train young kids in the inner city with job creation. And then he went on to Philadelphia Convention Center. But through this whole transition, the work of friends and colleagues that we can help into and the pool, the deal was going to be canceled because it didn't make any sense to put a pool there you made no money. Plus, that county required you to have a lifeguard almost 24 hours a day. And the Hilton developer said, no, you need to build that pool. And I said, we'll take a stab at it. And they didn't say yes because of Andy Ingram. They said yes because we represent the whole community folks. And so when we look at travel, what Sheila's doing now with Greg Woods, and it's no shortcut when I said to Greg, is Sheila any good at what she's doing? I asked him that. That's a real question.
I believe it.
Yeah. I'm a real blunt person. I'm shy, but I'm blunt. But
I'm not shy.
I'm not shy. But when we talk about tourism, and I'm going to ask Laura, this is going to be a question before we get into the slides. Is the tourism market growing, and specifically, is the Black travel tourism market growing? Absolutely. And then Greg, I'm going to ask you the same question, and I'm going to ask Sheila, what is Philadelphia doing to grow that market? Question.
Tourism overall is growing in terms of frequency, so people are feeling now since COVID that they want to take advantage of their leisure time in a different way. And they can travel more because of the flexible work schedules that they have. They can have those 3-day weekends and more flexible options for getting out of town. Is the Black market growing? Absolutely. We noticed that since the first report was issued in 2009, happened to be our report, you can see on Google the increase in frequency of searches on Black travel, African American travel. You see a resurgence, not resurgence, you may see a surgence of the Black travel movement. And this is described by Black travelers themselves. They are looking at what's happened in the past 10, 15 years as the Black travel movement. So once we put the numbers out there and said this was worth, at that time, we had it at 48 billion, people are feeling empowered, saying, hey, we're worth something in the marketplace, pay attention to us, and we're going to get out there and start making our mark.
Greg, when we started, Black travel was just an anomaly.
Well, it wasn't necessarily called Black travel as much as multicultural. And I think a lot of that was because where we were at that place in time, that was a way of identifying a community that would be somewhat positively received. But what I would say to kind of add a little bit more depth to what Laura's just described is that, all travelers across all segments have become much smarter, whether it's the use of technology or whether it's just the fact that they have had this opportunity to spend more discretionary dollars to travel during COVID. But I think some of the real important parts to take into account is that, all travelers, but especially those people of color, are looking for a very authentic experience. And that's different from identifying me as Black, because I think whether you're Black, purple, or green, we want good food, good shopping, whatever the case is, but we do want that authentic experience that you can connect to as a person, and that there's a sense of uniqueness, and we really evolved as it relates to travelers. And I think even the way we spend money is much more impactful than we would have in the past, because we're going to seek out certain and different types of experiences that allow for us to feel as though this place is where I really want to be. But I do want to point out, with the current political climate that we live in around diversity, equity, and inclusion, which should not be considered a dirty word, you can just call it diversity, it makes it even that much more complex, because as you know, in certain states and municipalities, there's legislation that makes the access or the comfort in those destinations maybe a little bit more problematic. So while travel is it is a lot more complex than it was before. And I think as we go forward, it'll probably even still be somewhat challenging. But at the end of the day, whoever you are, you look at that same sort of experience that is very unique and authentic to you.
What is Philadelphia doing to attract that market? You were hot at one time, the Philadelphia Sound, and what's going on?
Well, I've only been 2 years for DC. But I would say what I'm doing. The last panel mentioned how they're specifically opening near schools, restaurants near schools, and I noticed there's an intentionality about what they do, which I really appreciate. And I'll say this, PHL Diversity, which is the name of my division, has a certain amount of intentionality that I'm not sure everyone else has. We say diversity, but I really don't think that term is really meaningful anymore, because without the inclusion, diversity is really irrelevant. Different faces in the room means nothing unless everyone has the same amount of power, status, stature, if you will. So I like to say that Philadelphia, again, there's a reason why Harriet Tubman walked 300 miles back and forth to Philadelphia. And there's a reason why PHL diversity exists since 1987. I compete with other destinations to bring meetings and conventions to Philly. Baltimore, DC, Boston, New York, Birmingham, whatever. And they'll say, well, we have a task force, we have a commission on diversity. And I would say, did it exist before George Floyd was killed? Is it performative or is it intentional? We are intentional about bringing Black and brown meetings together since 1987.
Will that increase business filter down to entrepreneurs like folks in this room,
Yes.
like myself? And that's where I think is important.
Thank you for asking that question. So here's an example. Alpha Phi Alpha. Huge. Yeah. Flew out of Florida to find a more welcoming city. And they came to multiple cities. They ended up choosing Philadelphia. I'm not going to take full credit for it, but it was a team of us that really had to show the city and show what we had to offer. But here's what is really, really, really helped them out. I connected them, not just Airmark at the convention center, but the Black-owned subsidiary, Strother Enterprises, which many people don't even know when they go to convention center. You don't even hear about it. This is a Black-owned business. This is a subsidiary, and they got $600,000 coming in when Alpha comes in 2025 as a result of that relationship. I'm also going to connect you to limousine companies and restaurants. I have a guy called Discover Diversity, and in the back of it is LGBT-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, Black-owned businesses. I want you to understand that we got to come into Philadelphia and go beyond Center City. I want the impact to affect the entire city.
You know, she raised an interesting point. When our stupid governor decided to make those stupid remarks about diversity in Florida, we'll start canceling. And I put a task force together, and I said to a number of those groups, the Black lawyers, don't cancel. Let's be intentional. If you take our lead, we will link you with African American minority-owned businesses. We sold up Tampa. Now, yes, we have a vested interest in Tampa to feed, because we're building 2 hotels there. But we sold up Tampa. I moved all the businesses, all the companies wanted to come to Miami, and I started moving them to other cities who had an active program to ensure that Black businesses benefit. Those that came to Miami, and I wish Commissioner Keon Hardeman was there. I went to the Miami City Commission, and I said, if you give us a stipend, we will bring travelers to Overtown. Many years ago, I used to work for a gentleman called Puffy Combs. I know he's not very popular now. And I created an event called Revoke Music Conference in Miami. Prior to that, in 1999, there was a group called FUBU. And Damon John and Keith Steele and Damon John gave me my first $1 million contract, and I created an event called FUBU Y2G in St. Martin. I took celebrity groups that will in St. Martin, and today, Beyonce and Jay-Z spends at least 2 or 3 weeks in Brooklyn. So we had started the process. And so in Miami, I went to Overtown, and with Revoke, the Puffy's group, I spent $2.7 million every weekend, every year for 4 years. And I made a conscious decision to ensure that we put people in Overtown. Today we have an urban, because people said, it's not safe. Nonsense. It is safe. But what we decided to do with travel is, let's take the bus company. We have Horace, unfortunately just passed away last week. And Miami owns one of the largest cruise party boats. Top Beach Lady holds 400 people, smaller boat 175, I think. And so we've got to be intentional. But here's the beauty. There's business for all of us in this market. And so when I said to Mr. Combs, I want you to go to Overtown. I want you to go to Jackson's Soul Food. When I went to Tampa, we had about 6 or 7 black restaurants, and they could hold a bunch of people. They came with a strategy. Roving dinner. And I did this in Fort Lauderdale. If the guy only sees 10 people, and geographically I had that bus go 10 here, 10 here, 10 here, 10 here. That whole time as they came around, ready to take the next phase. So we have to be intentional. Stanley, you know this very well. Martin Downs, the nerve of you is a black fella trying to own golf courses in Florida, those places where they don't, I mean, there's a problem there. There's a problem. The group out of Detroit, headed by Vivian Picard, who comes there every year, and they come to Martin Downs to play golf because it's black owned. When Michelle had Zanzibar in Washington before the war came about, you didn't think about it, but when you came to DC, and at that time I worked for the governor of St. Martin, I would bring the Minister of Tourism, I would bring the governor, and we would all go to Zanzibar. We were doing it consciously. There's so much money to be made. Stanley, what made you get in the golf course business?
First of all, I kind of stumbled into the golf course business. I was supposed to be a private investor, and I wound up, by the time the deal was over, everybody else left, and I was the last one standing. So I wound up having to learn the business and learn it in real time. But the thing that I learned about the golf business is that it was very obvious that we had very limited access. The reasons for limitations in access was money. Obviously, by the price you out of the market, you can't get kids in. And if you don't start at the process early enough, you can't move to the professional level. And so when I saw that, and I actually began the operation, what I actually realized is that there is virtually nothing that I could buy in services or equipment from a person of color. Nothing. I could not buy a John Deere tractor from a person of color, even though there's 21 John Deere dealerships. I could not buy fuel. I could not buy anything with herbicides, pesticides, or fertilizer from a black dealer or distributor. I could not actually live, even though Tiger Woods lives about 30, maybe 25 miles from me, I could not get into that network. And then when we look across the entire enterprise of how do we make the next Tiger Woods, there's no pathway. So a few of us actually, there's 7 of us who we own 3 courses, and there are 8 courses owned by African Americans, start moving into different directions. You see Steph Curry making an investment in Howard University. You see Michael Jordan picking up professional athletes after they've matured into an area that they know that they can play. Well, we have to have that feeder operation. And so my wife and I made investments in 3 country clubs. All 3 had previously been segregated clubs. So Martin Downs was the qualifying course for the Honda Classic. Gainesville was the course that the University of Florida played at, and everybody else in Gainesville. North Green in North Carolina actually was the championship course for the ACC. And the ACC had and has the best golfers, college golfers in the world. So these are very formidable courses. And now all of them are run and managed by Tiger Woods' coach, from 14 to 18. That's access.
So Stanley, Tiger Woods is not playing golf anymore. I could probably beat him this morning.
He's playing on weekends.
No, he did.
Yeah, some weekends.
So, how do we get, and Amari, you're training, as Ashley did, you're training young people to matriculate from, what, my accent is to matriculate, at Howard University. But more importantly, and Julius Cartwright, my cousin, just be the former president of NABHOOD. If I want to buy a hotel, I can call the guy that knows nothing. I can call the guy that's going to tell me something, and they try to do it right to be successful. And the reason why we like him so well at Howard, when they called me and asked if I could give them some information on him, and I said it's a no-brainer, because young people will see him in a non-traditional job, and he's still young. Why is it important for Black people to go to qualified folks that need to buy hotels? And secondly, is there a transition from your experience that you can share with young people to help them get into a non-traditional business where we weren't there before into this year?
Absolutely. I'll take the first part, which is the importance of, and we always talk about this at NABHOOD conferences, building your team. That is essential. So at the prior panel, you heard people talk about how they are doing the deals, how they're executing, and that may be one individual of a team. Understand that that is essential. When it comes to this industry, this is an operating business on real estate and a franchise model. Operating business on real estate and a franchise model. All three very different skill sets. You can go to Instagram right now, somebody's selling a course on all three different things, right? But having somebody who actually understands that, as long as you understand that this is not just a real estate transaction, and that is how you hurt yourself, you come in with that approach, right? If you come in and say, oh, okay, I have experience with this, and that a lot of it is assembling the team. It's like anything, you're either going to grow it or you're going to acquire it, right? It's a skill. So what happens is working with folks who have experience transacting with hotels, working with franchisors. They can only do so much. Most of them, I think all of them are publicly traded entities, so they can't put together projections for you, right? Having somebody who does that and who does that for hotels specifically is incredibly important. Working with qualified managers.
Those are studies, right?
That's a part of it, is a feasibility study, but also before you get to the feasibility study, a lot of times you're talking about an acquisition. So you heard a lot of previous conversation about development. There's an opportunity to get in for significantly reduced opportunities just because it's an existing asset. It was built in yesterday's dollars, for lack of better terms. Right now, replacement costs have gone up, hence insurance costs have gone up. So all of those things you have to be cognizant of, and having a consultant that can help you understand are short-term rentals of impact here, right? Some markets it is, some markets not. Understanding the policy that's going behind that. Some markets have gotten very aggressive with short-term rentals, and you can argue that there's an opportunity. To answer the second part of your question is, coming from industry and being around students is incredibly important. I've been in the classroom in higher education for over a decade. Started out teaching at First Georgia Community College, and then went to Cheney University, so that's Philly. Yes. And then most recently at University here in Eastern Shore, as well as Georgetown, in the graduate program. Being around students is incredibly important. A piece of that was a lot of the hospitality professors that I saw were not that great. I had great ones, I was privileged, but I've seen a lot of students just come out and didn't have those exposures that you have to go out and seek on your own. So somebody like myself, somebody like Ashley that came from industry, when we start looking at these non-traditional roles, and the way I worked backwards was I said, where are there not enough people that look like me, because that's probably where the money is. So I was an undergrad one day, I heard one of my professors talking about being a hotel broker, and it just ruined my life, and that was something I started chasing towards because I was just like, I didn't know that this was a job. So having our students, and Andy mentioned it, right? We're seeing people do it younger and younger and younger, and somebody like Ms. Plummer that's gotten to the capacity that she has come out of the hospitality management program and now moved into ownership, where that's not as clear of a path. There is a blueprint there. People can share that, but planting that seed earlier, and that's a great part about what that hospitality center is able to do from an interdisciplinary approach. So folks that do have entrepreneurial aspirations understand that, again, operating business franchise model on real estate. If you start understanding that at a very early age, you heard Warren talk about starting early and investing in something else that may be less capital intensive to help you scale up into hotels. If people are having those conversations in that 18 to 22 age, right? Imagine by the time they get to 32. They've been socializing this amongst their network now for 10 years. And you're not just a person, because a lot of times where our deals fall apart is, and people say it's access to capital, it's a lot of times you did not have the right information. And a lot of times it's the person trying to run around and raise the capital for the deal, don't got the information. So you may know me for flipping houses and selling Noonie juice and whatever else pyramid scheme I was in for the last 10, 15 years. And I come to you talking about a hotel. And because out of love, you may say, you're not going to really say, hey, Omari, like, I know you for all of this, I know you for multifamily, like, but I don't really trust you in this field. And you don't have the right team assembled. And then you can't put together capital. And you say, it's access to capital is the problem. And you see somebody else come along that does the deal. Right? A lot of it is access to information. Folks just not knowing what they're looking at. So if you can get that in that crucial development age of your collegiate years and having at least an entry-level understanding and where to go and finish that to gain more knowledge, that is how we grow this group.
So when I talk about travel and access to capital is exactly. So I don't know a damn thing about running a restaurant. But I realized in Fort Lauderdale, there was no restaurant in the emerging regentrified area. And so I called Warren up and I said, Warren, I'd love to partner with you at the restaurant. He said, you going to put some money in? I said, yes. But I understood CRAs. And I went to the CRA and I got them to commit $2.5 million to be my investment in the deal to build out a full operating restaurant with almost a 3-year renovation. And I remember when we were doing the study, we had the team come in and they drove the neighborhood. There were churches, there was brunch and all this other stuff. But so I wanted people to look at the hotel business, to look at the travel business and say, okay, what can I do to earn money to get to the next level? 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we chased, as an African-American group, to build a convention center. Well, Fort Lauderdale didn't want black people. Fort Lauderdale didn't want black people owning convention center. And we put two proposals together, one with Don Barton and one with Don Peoples. And we made a critical error in our final presentation. We dared to question the White County Commission about looking at our financial statements when they didn't look at Mr. Huizenga. And we challenged them in a public forum. And I sat back there in a meeting and I said, we just lost the deal. And we did. The next week, we won the deal on a vote. I won vote lead. The next week, they found a reason to re-vote, and we lost by 1 vote. But that's the challenge. So we've got to skillfully figure out, if they don't want us, how do we figure out on the deal? It can be a bus company. It can be a tour company. And I tell all folks in the hotel industry, you've got two choices. You can keep working until you get tired. You can let your money keep working and never gets tired. Laura, walk me through what's happening in the changing multicultural heritage African-American travel based on the information and some of the research you have.
Do you want to answer for me?
Oh, yeah. Ready? Go.
Yeah. So this is a presentation I use when people aren't always convinced that the multicultural market is worth an investment. So this is making the case for that investment in the multicultural market. Next. And one thing we have to understand is when we're talking, I think this is very important when you're talking to investors, especially at the city level, the county level, the state level. we're not just talking about bringing people of multicultural backgrounds to our destinations. That is a big part of it. But the other part of it is finding investment to enhance those multicultural assets that are in our communities. Because what that does is build up the reason these multicultural travelers want to come, number one, and it creates jobs in the community and it establishes that pride of place. That's something I don't think we talk enough about, that when in the community, we're focusing on multicultural tourism, we're working on those assets. What do I mean by an asset? I mean, the old church from 1789, that nobody's restored. An old gravesite, an old black cemetery where you can't see the headstones anymore, or where there, more often than not, there aren't any headstones. Reestablishing an old schoolhouse. Those are the kind of assets that really attract the multicultural traveler, and I'm going to show in a minute, attract a large proportion of the general leisure market. It's not just black folks and Hispanic folks and the other multicultural travelers that want multicultural, understand multicultural history and assets. It's everyone. Because it's part of the American story. It's not just black churches and schools and gravestones. It's part of the American story, telling us how we treated the dead, back centuries ago, and what little respect we had for the dead if they were different from us. I mean, it's very powerful, and it's a story that needs to be told.
Laura, when you talk about assets and Greg, remember what you guys did in Philadelphia at the onset? You don't remind me doing now is that you have to go in and help these businesses become tourism ready.
Right.
Talk a little bit about that in the middle of helping that asset.
Yeah, so a big emphasis was really looking at how visitor ready were you. It's one thing to say that we have some great historical sites and we have some incredible restaurants and great nightclubs that you can visit, but are they truly ready for someone who's been in LA, who's been in Chicago, and when they get to Philly, what the experience is like? And in some cases, it was just a matter of committing to the hours that you have posted, either in your brochure or on your website, that you are open those particular hours, but also thinking of their business more from how, not just how I run it, but how in fact I deliver quality customer service, because that person might be staying at the Ritz-Carlton looking for an incredibly culturally enriching experience when it goes to the African American Museum. So they have that same expectation of customer service and the ambiance that should be a part of it. So we would have to go out in a variety of different locations and we provide them insights in terms of where they may need to improve some of the services that they have to offer. Some of it was just the maintenance of the outside of their establishment, just to make sure that it is truly ready at all times of day for whatever the customer might want. It also encouraged a lot of those businesses to work very closely with their business district. Maybe they need to have more police patrolling in order for people to have a sense of safety and security. It's also to ensure that they work with the various transportation systems, because perhaps you are hosting a late night reception and you have access to bus or taxi cabs or Ubers whenever people are leaving from there. So it's that ethos of not just what happens in my business, but what the expectation might be of the customer. So that evaluation and assessment of businesses to ensure that they are what we like to call the red carpet ready when individuals arrive and they experience. It allows them to have a continuous experience. And I would point out a lot of the great work that Sheila does today is really a continuation of that to make sure that businesses stay very much focused around it.
Yeah, but Sheila worked for Mayor and Bowles, coming from the spectrum. But coming from the spectrum of somebody that says they're intentional about how they're being included. And once you buy into that, we take that to the next level. What else can I do to enhance? So she took from DC to what you're doing in Philadelphia now.
Not only that, but I started off with my diversity as a number, inclusion as an action, equity as a practice, accessibility as a right, and belonging as a feeling. Let me just finish the entire acronym. And really, I focus on the inclusion and equity, the accessibility and belonging. And what you have to do when you want to make sure people have a sense of belonging and inclusion when they come is you have to treat them fairly. That's where the equity comes in. And you have to have a level of cultural competency in the hospitality industry, which is something I'm working on right now. For instance, 2026 is the birthplace of our country, and everyone's coming to Philadelphia in 2026. We don't even have enough people to operate our restaurants and hotels now. What are we going to do in 2026? So that's the question I'm asking. And how can we make sure that we increase the workforce with Black and brown people to benefit from all that World Cup and Major League Baseball All-Star, all of that's coming to Philadelphia. How can I make sure that A, that we're ready, and that we're ready by feeding a pipeline of students to come into the hospitality industry? So all of that is how you create a sense of belonging and inclusion, and most importantly, well, as importantly, equity.
So she just told us something interesting that I've been paying attention to. There is some opportunity that's coming, and we did the same thing for Lauderdale, and one called me when they said, you know, why don't we buy a valet company? Valet company? Yeah, a car parking company. And I said, that's a great idea. All this stuff is coming. We went and found a partner and took an equity position in his company. That partnership, because we knew what she just said what was coming. And it's interesting that it was a white-owned company. It's still a company, it's just not white-owned anymore. And all we did is brought money to the table. And so, I'm going to try not to mess this up. Shahiba, who runs the Black Chamber of Commerce, that's that right? Shahiba, you got like a name like Mary or Stu. You said it, right? All right. Shahiba, who runs the Black Chamber of Commerce in Fort Lauderdale, whose whole focus is how to empower business. And to us, is how do you empower, we lost the slide? We lost the presentation, the initial one that we had on multicultural travel. So how do we empower and get information from her or become a member so that when the next big thing comes, I can call him and say, listen, there's an idea, let's put some money together. I can call her, or I can call Tochi, and say, hey, let's put some money together and begin to build that. The slide that Laura Mandela just had, I guess we're gonna hit this, huh? No? So, Shahiba, how can we partner as hotel, as actually using what Sheila is doing in Philadelphia, with Greg, how can we partner with other African American groups that we at NABHOOD want to be able to access that and work with people like you?
Thank you, Andy, for the question. And that's why I made sure that I'm at these NABHOOD events, I'm chasing Andy down to ensure that small businesses, especially Black businesses, are at the table. Because there are opportunities all around us, and I see it in the hotel industry, where our businesses have expertise in whether it's janitorial, management, or have a product that can be sold in a hotel, we need to be at the table. But just as importantly, we need to be a part of bringing folks into our communities so that our Black businesses can thrive, because they turn around and hire the community. And so, yes, joining is extremely important, joining the chamber, but more importantly, more partners. So a very, I would say, certain thing that we do is engage with our CBB in Fort Lauderdale. Not everybody's like Philadelphia or Tampa. Andy knows that very well, so we have a little bit more of a struggle where we're from, but nonetheless, we're going to engage. And so I asked, what are the conferences coming? I want to know what the opportunities are. Just in August, the National Association of Black Lobbyists came to Fort Lauderdale during National Black Business Month, and I said, you guys are going to use Black businesses. But besides using the Black businesses, as business owners, we care about community too. So I said, are you going to be doing a day in church? We have churches. Are you going to be working with our students? A lot of them don't know they can be lobbyists. So we had, and I can tell you, we had students from Boyd Anderson High attend the conference because they need to know that they can be Black lobbyists as well. So that's how we can partner and work together to ensure that everybody gets a piece of the pie when these events come into town, and it helps further develop our communities that, you know, quite frankly, are struggling a little bit.
You know, it was interesting, I didn't say this before, but Warren talked about Stop Restaurant. My daughter and my son took me there for my birthday, and I'm sitting there at this gorgeous restaurant, and very little business. And I called Warren up, I said, Warren, this makes no sense. What could we do? He said, Andy, we should start doing brunch as you suggest, go out and hire a marketing company to help market the restaurant. And I said, that's a no-brainer. And my call to you on Monday is give me a couple of black marketing groups that can go out, because on Dixie, we're 3 blocks from the African American Community Church. And every time I go to South, it's, as you know, it's beautiful. And I'm going to partner with our relaunch and re-grand open of the Black Chamber of Commerce. Laura, you talk about population growth. So there's still an opportunity as the travel market grows. We as people, as business people, everybody is a business person, anybody wants to be an entrepreneur, we as business people can still benefit as the population and opportunity for travel continue to grow.
Yeah, this is one of the foundations for why we've seen the increased activity in travel among all groups, just that the sheer increase in numbers, especially in the multicultural settings. So, here we've got, we're at spending now. Okay, so.
Go back.
No, that's okay. I mean, well, let's go back for a minute. So you can see that this is all the population. You can see how African Americans 14% and Hispanic quite high, 33%. So this has been driving a lot of the interest in the multicultural market. And then next, and their spend has increased. And as we've talked about a lot in this conference, African Americans' leisure piece alone is $109 billion. And these are all leisure numbers, not including any of the meetings that these groups have, and that's a whole other story. And here, this is just a snapshot of Google. These Google metrics tell you how many searches have there been for a particular word or a particular term. So this is, as you can see, prior to 2009, you don't see many people looking for African American travel. After 2009, you see a lot more interest in African American travel.
And that really means running opportunity spots. I'm concerned because if I know they're coming and I can buy a widget, I'm not Jamaican, but I'm Bahamian, but I hate being poor. So I always figure out how I can make additional dollars. But people also spending a lot of time at national parks. We don't have any national parks in the hood, you know that, right? And I never do as travel. What was that standard? Thursday, U.S. travel?
Thursday, yes.
So I created a relationship with the American Lodging Association, who I refused to meet with until they fired the president, but he ended up firing himself. And on Wednesday, I flew to New York, to hold a press conference with the American Hotel and Lodging about a piece of legislation that's hurting our industry. And I brought the Asian American birthday. I brought my partner to the Asian American. It's so funny that there's so much commonality. By chance, the Speaker of the House mentioned his name, and I said, that sounds like one of us. I asked for a break, walked on Meta, he turned out to be West Indian. And those relationships, and then we came to, then I called Friday to Washington, we met with U.S. Travel, and he said, Andy, the old boy network is going. I was the old guy. He said, I'm a new guy, I want to figure out how we can work together. Again, I'm very shy, very opinionated. I've been fired a lot of times. I got fired in corporate America 40 years ago when I worked for AT&T because they wanted me to do something, work longer than I really wanted to do. So the guy just fired me, so it wasn't a fit. Fine. But today, if we can collectively figure out how we can do business, and we talk about international travel, the largest issue facing America today is the amount of time it takes a visa, a guy in Brazil, Venezuela, to get a visa, and I own a pre-clearance company. The United States decided they don't want to spend any money more on pre-clearance. That's news to me, because we're now developing a model how we can pay for it. It's a service, right? I just charge the aircraft a fee, and they'll pay for efficiency. Wait times at airports are long for people to get a visa and then to get in. So, Laura, international travel to the U.S., are people concerned coming from some of these foreign countries to partake in multicultural travel? I mean, multicultural experiences?
No, some of our top markets, Germany, Japan, the UK, absolutely love multicultural destinations.
Historical location, 20%. That's a huge share.
Yeah, I mean, these and the destinations who run the blues trail, the jazz trail, the gospel tour in Harlem will tell you, especially through the gospel tour in Harlem, they've got more international travelers on those buses than anyone else. And interestingly, there's a gospel group that has now emerged in Japan. I actually have a friend who's a member of it. These are young Japanese women who get together and sing gospel and have gospel lunches. I mean, it's pretty phenomenal. But what really strikes home is that Black culture is so prevalent and so undervalued, right? You know, we can all laugh and say, yeah, that rooted from Black culture, but that's not recognized and it's not valued. And I think that's another element of what we need to communicate. How so much of culture has come from African roots.
Travel behavior is kind of, you know, this, the new board of golf course, you now revitalizing an asset where we traditionally didn't go, but, and so you do this, you get up there and you shake hands. People feel very comfortable, and then you go and reach the communities and say, the kids program. We talked to somebody I saw him earlier, who has a golf program for kids. And how do we partner? HBCU schools. Talk about Laura's travel behaviors and preferences. Talk a little bit about how you're changing the attitude of people having an African American golf course in Florida.
Absolutely. And our ultimate goal is to turn golf courses, because this is a hotel conference, to turn golf courses into the land for which you build a hotel. So that's really the ultimate goal.
We've had so many people marching up and down.
Believe me, because when you've got the properties that we have, historic, there's nobody on the PGA Tour today who have not played at one of my courses. And so how do we then materialize that into tying rail, tying aviation, tying the pieces of travel and tourism into now making this new industry, which happens to also be of color. When you saw the numbers of growth in travel, and then you tie that to COVID, so many people are working from home, so many people have more travel and leisure time. And then when you move that to international play, it becomes very important. So for us, it's very simple. You've got to know the people. So first we learn the business. We learn the business of golf. We're very well now known in golf. I sit on the same places that Donald Trump sits on because he also owns golf courses. But one of the things that we've done is made our relationship here in NABHOOD. Those relationships will get us to the partnerships with Hyatt and Hilton in Marriott, to where when we build our golf course, we're not building them individually, and we're bringing in this network of people. We've also developed our own networks when we talk about Michigan, Florida snowbirds, or the Chicago groups, or those who now will search and see African American golf, and our name shows up first. Those become the things that when you're building this this operation, it is not by chance, and it's also not overnight. And so we've got the land. We will contract our hotel operations, but we first have to then build that infrastructure, and we start with building the neighborhood, meaning those elected politicians, building our relationship with people who will operate and run our golf courses, and then people who will come. And that's a long and arduous step-by-step process, but it's one that will get tourism and talent there. We just held the African American golfers industry event. So Orlando has the PGA event, and there's a different event with African Americans that is titled the same, but it doesn't get the same sponsorship. We'll now build that sponsorship. And we will build that sponsorship because it is a value. They now know that 22% of the golfers in the entire United States are African American or Hispanic.
Yeah, Laura, 36% of all leisure travelers want that experience. Good name.
Well, I think this is the biggest news of the decade because up until now, we were looking at what do Black travelers want and establishing the importance of Black travelers and what they spent in the marketplace. Well, now we've expanded the study to look at all travelers. So we took a random sampling of U.S. travelers. And you look at the random sampling, we know the U.S. market is predominantly white. So when we take the entire market and you ask them how important is the experience of African American heritage and cultural sites and attractions to your choice of a destination, over two-thirds, 36% say it's important in their choice of a destination. So I think it has tremendous impact on destinations. And I think it's that number that will help you if you're interested in promoting this tourism to get marketing dollars, or if you're on the other side wanting to refurbish that old church, or you're involved in historic preservation. This also will help support that data. But this is not just about Black travelers or other multicultural travelers. This is about all travelers want to experience the Black experience, that this is part of the American experience.
One comment, 82% of our golfers are white. 82%. So they don't just see it as a Black golf course, they see it as a good golf course. And then once you get past that, we're in this hotel and the other hotel across the street is equally owned. When they see that you've got the quality and the performance, then everybody will come. And if you happen to be Black, you happen to be Black owned, and you happen to be intentional in that Blackness, because I'm very intentional. We will have one of our sponsored golfers on TV on Sunday in 2 years. We know that.
So, Sheila, you want to say something?
When Laura was talking about the different international travel.
Right.
So when I first started in Philly, I would always be at the meet with the National Black MBAs, Hispanic Journalists, Divine Nine. Now I'm called into meeting for Society of Coral, whatever, or Association of American Orthopedists. Every single person talks about diversity, and that's when they pull me into the room to help close that deal. So, and we also have salespeople around the world selling to China, India, Japan, Germany. I don't have to tell you how popular we are in Japan if you saw the breakdancing at the Olympics.
Right, the sport, right?
Right, that's what I'm saying. So you know, there's discussion, is misappropriation or being just, you know, loving our culture, whatever it is, reach out to them, right? If you're in a city and you're not in touch with the embassy or whatever, those people, like she said, they want our experiences, so we should benefit from that, right? Let's just not sit back and let people like copy us. You want to be a partner, come and right. So when they come to Philly, I take them to the Underground Grill Room. I take them to our South restaurant, which is black owned. And another thing about South, when we brought Alpha Phi Alpha to South Restaurant, which is a black restaurant in Philly, the MC said, "Oh, we have 8 people from 8 gentlemen from Alpha Phi Alpha sitting in the back, and they're considering Philadelphia over Orlando, and we just wanted to give them a shout out." 2 hours later, after that jazz show was over, each person in that room stopped at our table and said, "You need to come to Philly. You made the great decision to move. You need to come here." That's what brought them to Philly, not me, not Grand Terminal, not the cheesesteak, but because each person in that restaurant stopped at our table and said, "Come to Philly." And that sense of belonging, I can't overstate it, is what really sold them.
So the people experience, and we're running out of time, so I'm going to give each panelist a minute and a half to wrap up. All the material that you see will be available. We'll send it to you. If you send us a quick email, since you're all registered, if you haven't. And of course, I thought we were supposed to give away 2 registrations to our conference in July. Is there a who? Oh, you have the cards? Laura, can you pull up while those are, I'm going to start with Laura. Laura, I mean, Black culture seekers and activities, you're the expert on this sort of stuff. In a minute, tell me, are we going in the right direction? In terms of?
Some people are. Some destinations are.
Some destinations.
Yeah.
But why are destinations smart enough to understand that this is an undisturbed market they can capitalize? Sheila said it herself. She took from Florida, Alpha. We kept the amazing in Tampa.
Because we're a welcome destination.
Well, I mean, just let me point this out. We all know that a lot of these CBBs and state, especially the state.
What about countries too? And the Caribbean,
state tourism offices, they're political organizations. And we see the pushback on DEI, and look what Ron DeSantis has done with taking African American history out of the books in schools. So what I think is needed is, I think this has become more important for us to tell the experiences like you do in Philly. It's become more important because it looks like African American history is starting to evaporate out of the school system.
Wow. I'm glad I'm not African American. I am, I'm sorry. This is for registration to the conference Land Story Property Group. Greg, C. Shamato, make sure you get a complimentary registration to summit. Greg, your closing statement and comments.
So the one thing I didn't want to talk about, and since Shane already left, was really about the next generation of leaders in this industry. And you know, Andy hasn't really patted himself on the back enough about the component of education that is built into the NABHOOD conference. This summer, we had an intentional program that was really designed for students to conceptualize and create their own hotel. It's a case study competition. And there were 50 students who were surprised to have about 2.5 days to create a hotel concept, to be judged, and then ultimately to be selected the winner. But as we surveyed them, 85% of the students who participated found it to be the most incredible experience to take them to the real reason why they were at the conference. And there were at least 90% of the students who wanted to return next year in order to participate in the competition in a more informed way. At the end of the day, setting the example and providing those role models will make a huge difference. And I remember when Kendra came with me to the NABHOOD conference, and I see her today, and you can't help and so without a doubt, there was such an incredible impact for young people to see a Kendra and to to know that it's just that real. So I did want to just do a shout out because, you know, you do these type of things and you wonder does it ever really land, but there was a really terrific outcome that was as a result of it. So thank you for hosting.
Well, he's the coach here. Yeah, I don't know any work, they do the work. And we made a commitment this year, I'm gonna raise money to do a event at Howard University, where we're gonna bring 100 kids from around the country to see you and spend a weekend with them. So we immerse them into something that for us makes sense to be creating a service. Before we call this another registration.
David L.
David L.
Nick Haley.
Haley. David Nick, oh, he did his car. No, Senator Haley's not yet. Pull another one. You have to be president to win. Huh? You're not in. Put it in. Oh, you're not in? Oh, I hope all you guys have, you're gonna get on our registration. That's fine.
Mary Dumas.
Huh?
There she goes, Mary Dumas.
Please, Mr. Carter.
Mary Shimondo will connect with you, and he'll give you registration.
Yeah. I mean, if you weren't my son, I would fire you for not doing this. Jesus Christ, you can't put the whole pack of cards in there. Good. All right, who's before?
Mary Dumas, and she's trying to connect with you.
Shimano, okay. Well, why don't you make your closing statement first?
I would say the one thing that everybody should take away from this is that these people here are experts and they're sharing that information. So often I'm in circles where people are holding on to their little bit of progress, and that's always disconcerting to me. But I am really empowered and really inspired by the fact that these people are sharing information that they didn't even have to share, right? And the people in the previous panel are sharing information, and they're sharing information that he didn't have to share. And that gives me inspiration and hope that, you know, we as a people coming together, we can do so much more than that little crabs in a barrel thing that I've experienced. So this is really helpful for me to say, if you know your value, you should not be threatened. You should be able to share your value and know your value. This has nothing to do with my job. This is the Sheila Alexandria telling you what I'm leaving when I take away from here. This is really, for me, something that we need to be doing each and every day.
Thank you.
Black card, right? Stafford Sutton Jr. Stafford?
He's not there.
One month. Tyon Thompson, Mr. Taxes.
Theon Thompson. Stanley Close, you got 1 minute? Yeah, less than 1 minute. We're rounding up.
So first of all, I'd like to thank Andy for having us here. The meeting that he was talking about is transformational, because you're talking about all travel in the United States, and travel leads to tourism, and tourism leads to business. That's every rail, every airline, every ship. That is a big deal. I'm also going to challenge Philly and these other places, because we also had a different introduction, and that's the Florida Memorial College, where they are now interested in putting a hotel system in place at the college. And so now there's a little bit of competition, and as a person from Miami myself, I love that introduction. So I can tell you for me, I will not miss one of these conferences, because Last year, I was here and I went away similar to what you are, and I ran for the United States Senate in the state of Florida. Even though I did not win the primary, what I know is that we can do better when we work together. A lot better when we work together. And the information that I left last year was a way to finance using Department of Agricultural funds. The thing that I'll need this year is very simple. We have a lot of work to do. In the state of Florida, we have probably one of the worst governors in the state. And we're going to change it. We're going to get Kamala Harris, who I cannot be political things, elected as the next president of the United States.
Thank you, Stanley.
Thank you. So, we've got Anthony Goborn.
Anthony Goborn is here.
Is that, you got to make sure that is, okay, yes, Anthony. You have the last word for
So, in closing, join me in thanking the panelists. Our commitment at NABHOOD is very basic. We believe that the greatest opportunity to create wealth is really through real estate and many vehicles, whether it's hotel. But more important is how do we interact with each other? How do we work with each other? And really, how do we begin to do business with each other? This country is at a critical point. As an immigrant to this country, I'm happy as the first member of my family to come to the United States. And I get very concerned. So when you look around, if you have kids, I have a 4-year-old grandson. If I knew that how much fun I would have with my grandson, I would skip having kids because I know, that's technology. But we've got to make a commitment to do business with each other. I'm probably one of the luckiest guys in the world. I work with a group of guys and girls that are committed only to excellence, but changing the paradigm in building wealth. Whether it's, and I remember Kendall went to Temple. We had a program at Temple. As a matter of fact, I started to go to Temple when Greg was employed at Temple. And we made a conscious effort to get people that look like us, that think like us, and create the next generation. Our student program, Greg, thank you for co-chairing that. Ashley Johnson, thank you for that. But we bring kids from all over the Caribbean and the United States. We're on our dime, we have them come to Miami, and I know this for a fact. They've got to see people that look like them excelling, and it's an inspiration. To me, 4 years ago, I was raising money to put a scholarship program for young people to study agro. And I'll close with this. I was walking through a high school in the Bahamas. The principal and the minister of education stopped me and introduced me to a young man, 16 years old. I was trying to hurry to my next meeting, but I stopped to talk with him. And I said, what do you want to do? And he said, I want to study aviation. I said, where are you going to go to school? He said, oh no, my parents probably can't afford it. I don't know what happened. He said, my mother is a nail tech. And I turned to Sandra Carey, my sister, and I said, let's get this young man in school. Today, he's in his 3rd year. He has his college license. And one of the best calls I ever got was when I arrived at the airport in the U.S., I got a call from his mother, who, by the way, I've never met, because that's what's important to us, is that we do without any regard for rewards. But the mother called me crying and said, thank you. And so, we at NABHOOD are committed to those 3 things. Ownership, executive level employment. I want more people that look like me at the executive level that I can call. I want more subcontractors. So let me thank you all for being here. If you need any additional money to invest, you don't have to even go to Cincinnati. You'll see Mr. Hightower right there. One of those guys with all the petroleum money. We're going to come back to the hotel and spend a lot of money, see the assistant general manager, my good friend Tochi. It's really been a pleasure. If you want to have a doctor move his house from the eastern part of Nassau and put it on west, or invest with me in Exuma, where we're building a massive residential project with a couple of celebrity investors. And let me tell you about relationships. I came down yesterday and Dougie Fresh, Kevin Hart, and Chris Spencer, and they were complaining about the room. And I said, take Norm Jenkins' room at the Marriott and give it to Dougie Fresh, give the other suite to Kevin, and give it to Chris Spencer. Those are guys that are potential investors in our project. If we treat them right, they'll be successful, we'll be successful. Thank you, pleasant good morning. Go downstairs and spend a lot of money.